introduce my exciting new theoretical construct, the Performativity Continuum. This refers to teachers' attitudes to using performance or drama in the classroom. So here it is. At one extreme over here, we'll say, we have the raving Thespian teacher. That's someone who just does nothing but drama in class. And at the other end, we have the doubting Thomas teacher, who doesn't really believe that drama has anything to help students learn a language. So, I'll just say, by performance, I mean using anything more than the intellect to learn or teach or communicate generally. So that's using your body, probably your emotions, maybe moving, that sort of stuff. Okay, so let's try it. I'd like you to all get up and create a line here, arranged according to this, according to your attitude to drama. So if you are a doubting Thomas, you can stand over here. If you are a raving Thespian, I'll stand over here with the raving Thespians, and I'd like you to arrange yourself relative to everybody else in a line as fast as possible, because I only have 12 minutes.
See him. Sorry. You're totally extreme, I know that already.
I'm pretty extreme. Pretty extreme. Peter? Come on, everybody.
Or are you reading?
Oh, this end in the middle, I think.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to explore this. Not quite.
That's before this.
Are we ready? Can we make it one line?
I'm almost raving.
Okay, lovely.
Almost.
Thank you very much. Sit down again.
97, 96.
I'm quite nervous.
Oh, you don't have to be my class.
Sometimes in crisis, I think. Now we go back? Okay.
Can I move that as well? Great, that was great. You actually did that faster than I expect, so I may have enough time for my talk, which is good. Now that's a very basic technique. You may say that it's not drama at all. We can discuss that in the questions if you like. But the point is, you positioned your body. You didn't just position your intellect. And actually, that exercise will probably be the only thing you remember from my talk. Because that's how it works. So I used this technique with a boisterous, newly arrived class of young learners in a summer school this summer. When I had them the second lesson of the day, the teacher who had them the first lesson was completely frazzled by them and couldn't understand who they were. And she asked me, would you just make a class list and get their ages? So I binned my plan, and I used this technique. First of all, I got them to stand in a line arranged according to height. So that's very, very easy to check because it's visual. And they don't actually need to talk to each other at all to do it, never mind in English. But they learned the technique like that. Then I asked them to get themselves in a line arranged according to age. So then they did have to talk to each other, but a lot of them had the same first language, so there was very little English. But then, to check that, they had to say to me their age in years, months, and days. And like that, we could check it. And then we created a class list on the board. They had to spell their names for me while I made the list. So before we did that, we went through the pronunciation of the English alphabet. And they were doing that for a reason. And then while I made the list for them, they could see if they made a mistake, it had a consequence. So while it took the entire lesson to create a class list, many people would say, well, that's a terrible waste of a lesson. But actually, I consider that quite a successful lesson. And yeah. So that's my first example. So a very, very basic dramatic technique. You might say it's not even a dramatic technique, but it's using the body. Okay, another example from this summer is with an older group, like older teenagers. They would have been upper intermediate level and maybe some advanced. And I followed some of a dramatic teaching sequence that has been suggested by Celine Healy in this journal article, which you can search for it on Google Scholar. It's at the Humanising Language Teaching magazine website. And I'd like to show you a few. She has loads and loads of techniques in this. I only tried some of them. I found it very, very helpful and effective, and very, very good for summer school where you have the kids coming in, and it's nice to give them some culture as well as English language. So it starts off, this is an example of everybody's in role, everybody's doing the drama as it were. So I kept them waiting at the door, and then, thank you so much for coming. I'm really sorry to call you out on such a horrible night as tonight, but you know, we have to have this emergency meeting of the Amateur Detective Society because the guards have a terrible problem on their hands and they need our help. So yeah, it's terrible, isn't it? There's another missing person. And so please come in and sit down, and I'll get this thing started as fast as possible. So, and then you bring them in. So we have some evidence. The guards would like us to have a look at this and see if we can get any clues. So I'd like to show you, this is the scene where the missing person is last known to be. So they all come up and they look and they think, oh, didn't finish her tea, didn't eat her lunch. What's this? So there you can see. There's a poem written on the paper. Oh, there's another poem here. They both seem to be talking about going away. Oh, and a funny doodle of nature, and it's written to the waters and the wild. Strange. But look, they forgot their handbag. Like, you just leave them to do it, you know, I'm just kind of talking through it. It's in the handbag. Ooh, loads of screwed up bits of paper. Waterfall, Glen Carr. There are various places on the pieces of paper. So you get them into pairs and you say, so can you come up with some ideas? Who is this person? Where have they gone? Why did they leave? Like, and who did they go with? The guards tell us that there has been another piece of evidence found, a clue maybe. So this was found on the missing person's computer in their inbox. And here it is, so you give that to the students, see what they make of that, find any other clues. Oh, and then get some more evidence. Some rather old pieces of paper, and they're written in old-fashioned writing, and the language is really kind of old-fashioned and weird. So you give these bits of paper to different groups. So in your group, could you like try and work out what this means? Like put it into normal English maybe, and so then they start doing that, and they're learning. So they're telling each other a kind of modern day version of this old-fashioned language. At this stage, I thought the students were ready to meet the poem The Stolen Child by W.B. Yeats, and they met this poem as a kind of a solution to the question, what happened? Like, what happened here? Rather than a, oh God, that's a really long poem and I don't understand it. Because most of the language issues had already been resolved. So I would thoroughly recommend, thoroughly recommend that you look at this. There's lots of other ideas in there as well. And it would actually, it would be good to try different things. As well as here, I didn't actually say, after they looked at this, they, one of the students can sit in the chair, and the other students like direct them to look how they think the person would look. So like they might be kind of relaxed like this, like teenagers might be, no, you should be like really tense and maybe distressed. Your face, you shouldn't be smiling. It's like you're probably scratching your head, or you know. So it's a bit like I tried that. It didn't work quite so well. I think maybe if you were working with students for a longer period of time, you could kind of train them in those sorts of techniques. like most of my students were coming and going in like 3 weeks. So like there wasn't enough time really to get that stuff going. Okay, so the last thing, which I have 2 minutes for, this is an example of when just the teacher performs. And I performed a poem. I wanted the students to talk about issues, like local political issues or environmental issues that meant a lot to them. So I decided to perform for them a poem that I'd written that is about something that means a lot to me. So that was my motivation for this. It was like kicking off a whole series of lessons. So I'll finish with this poem. I summered in salty water until an autumn storm dumped me on the sand. A girl gathered me into her wheelbarrow. "What are you doing?" the swimmers asked. "Something special. It's not really allowed." Wheeled up the hill, spread onto the garden, I settled down to winter with the worms. Now the girl's delighted with my spring soil. Soon I'll be in her vegetables. Soon I'll be in her. Just in case you wanted to look at a video that kind of introduced this sort of thing, I would direct you to that one as well. Sorry, I should have said that. Yes?
Okay, so I guess it's planning and so such lesson. It's not really easy for yourself, and lesson based on poems or so. It's not easy for the students either. What's the level that you recommend? To start, like for example, like what was the level of the students? Because like that shouldn't be a very easy lesson.
Yeah. Well, the first thing with making a line, you can do that with beginners.
Yeah, of course.
The second example I did with the poem, that is for upper intermediate or advanced.
Mm-hmm.
And at that level it works very nicely. Lower it wouldn't work so much. But the poem, I did my poem at all levels. And depending on what level they're at, I gave them more support beforehand, with the vocabulary and stuff like that. Yes.
How do you use the detective exercise, for example? Do you find those work better with teenagers, younger learners, or have you tried using them with adults as well, or is it suited better to one group or another?
I actually haven't been doing much teaching recently. I just was teaching in the summer school. This before that I haven't taught for a while. But I have very little experience with young learners, like I'd be 12 upwards. But I would probably try any of that with any of them. Like you need to know your students beforehand.
Yeah.
But yeah, why not?
And have you had any issues with trying to get them into it as such? So you set the scene nicely for them coming in, but
yeah, if they really don't want to do it, I wouldn't push them into it. You know? But I wouldn't make them do anything I wouldn't do. But then you might be
That doesn't mean. What about different nationalities, different responses from different nationalities? Do you find some Spanish people like it better than...
Yeah, the Spanish love it. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. About German, French?
No, German, French would,
Yeah.
they would go for it. I haven't really had a problem with a student who didn't want to do it.
Okay.
Apart, you get these guys who, wouldn't do anything. They might. If you get them into it, like you can get them into it.
Yeah.
It depends on the people. I don't usually have a problem with that.
That will